Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Richard Lewis Show. It's been a minute, but I thought we'd end the year strong with a slew of great guests, a lot of them relating to esports, but should be a few surprises in there as well. And I'm starting out easy because I've got a friend, member of the No Majors Club, of course, as well, the inventor of modern SUVs. And now back in the game. It is, of course, Kassad, Reddit's favourite analyst after Maui. We'll just start with some pleasantries. That's what they always say in interviews. Make small talk. So how you been?
Yeah, not bad. I mean, busy considering the circumstances right now and the fact that I'm tasked to assemble a team in a relatively short notice. Well, it's not really mandatory per se because it is December, right? So I have some time, right? But as soon as possible, that would be preferable kind of thing to do. And it's been super busy. I've been sleeping for like 4 hours a day, which is, I mean, I don't mind it. I really don't mind it because the adrenaline keeps, pumping all the time when I'm discussing this or that with the org and like discussing with the agents, players, and everything. It's just refreshing. It's when you get tired, but you're like good tired. You feel
I do. I know what you mean. When I've had like a bunch of like late nights and I've been, working on a story or whatever, and it's like, you're sort of watching the work build up and accumulate. It does give you a good feeling that sort of helps you power through. I think certain types of people just like to be busy, and I'm like one of them. I'm always doing something,
it's always fun to do something that you like, right? That you enjoy, obviously. And like that in the broadcast there is event and then there is another event and there is a break and then maybe a little bit longer break and then you get really not invited to the very next one, then you have a longer break. And overall, it's just like, stop and go. And when you're in a competitive area, it's just on the move all the time. Like you're talking to the players, you're dealing with the game, you're dealing with the org. It's stressful. But it's like also it's very positive and kind of helps me stay like level-headed a little bit and get out of my comfort zone a little bit, which is always good. And I do love that. Obviously, I like to do nothing sometimes, obviously, but I do enjoy being, under pressure a little bit. It's just, it's a thing for me. I don't know.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the new assignment because obviously there's been, you've been back to desk work. I know coaching is your passion and kind of the job you prefer to do. You've obviously, which we'll talk about later on, been associated with a number of high-profile orgs. Some of which are no longer with us, essentially. But you've been out of the game for a while, and then, Bleed Esports is an organization from Singapore. That's where they're based. And obviously, I think, not a presence in CS. And so I think some people might be a little bit, confused as to how that happens and, why you aren't with maybe a bigger name brand. I'm sure some of your haters have probably been in your DMs or tweeted at you, like saying it's a sort of derisory job or whatnot. So tell us about how you end up getting approached by Bleed and kind of what their ambitions for the project are.
So the thing is, like, it came as a surprise to me simply because in June, I believe, Yanko and me both we had a meeting with Bleed back in June, right? Where we discussed the possibility of like taking over the CSGO division back at the time and like the vision for it and everything. And we had like a financial forecast and all these things where you do to prepare for yourself for the meeting, right? And at the time, I believe Bleed was... they were very respectful in that meeting. The meeting went very well, but I think they were a little bit too much focused on their Valorant squad at the time. So they devoted a little bit more resources at the time, so they didn't really see the proper way in back in June, I believe, to go into CS, so we kind of left it alone. Meantime, I was doing the ESL stuff and the events and everything, so as the end of the year was approaching, I was like thinking what to do basically, and I was on the verge of. I had two things coming. One Asian org that is getting ready to enter CS as well in the nearest future. I think came to me with a proposal to take over as a GM and build hold the whole division and everything. And I was thinking about it, but also I was thinking about ESL and the whole broadcast, life, right?
Yeah.
Which has been good to me, right? I enjoyed working events. It was so much fun. It's less stress, and I was getting ready to discuss it with ESL and everything. And all of a sudden, Bleed came in, and they wanted to do a meeting, and they wanted to discuss some things. I told them basically how I wanna run the thing, how I have the vision for the like the bigger picture of the stuff. It's not like just chasing the immediately rush headfirst to buy players. I just wanna do something that's natural rather than artificial, and our kind of visions lined up in a sense,
Yeah.
right? Mostly, right? So I think the deal was done in a space of 48 hours. They were happy with me. I was happy with what they had to say and how they see the environment and the competitive, like the whole esports industry, and how they operate, because they have a large company. And I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not gonna lie to anyone here who is listening, who is watching. Is like they have the resources, right? They do have the legit resources, but they are smart about it. And this is what I need. I'm not gonna be looked at as a person who went for the money, or I don't want players that join me to just go there for the money, and just like Ronaldo is doing in Saudi Arabia, and all this stuff, right? And the whole football thing, right? I don't want players to think like that. I just wanted to build something that's going to be on the recipe of ants, for example, in the last 2 years. That would be the best comparison that we can get. So we started, basically, my contract started like 3 days ago, 2 days ago, officially. But yeah, it all happened very, very, very fast.
I mean, so the kind of confusion, I guess, would come around. Why would you want to take on a project that's essentially building a team from scratch again, when the last time you were in a similar job to that, over at Cloud9, it sort of ended, very abruptly. I wanted to kind of pick your brains a little about that, because I would say building a team for CS2 in a kind of uncertain landscape, in the sense we really don't know which players are going to adapt and be good from CSGO. We don't know what new talent's going to come through. We don't know, for example, if we might get Valorant players starting to spill over now. We're at that stage of the game's development where I think that's a possibility. And so you're tasked with building this team at such a uncertain time, with a major in March. So we're talking like 4 months. So it seems way more difficult than what you were doing in Cloud9.
Yeah, the thing is that let's start with Cloud9. I mean, it did appear that I was kind of part of that project and picking the players itself, but I really had a limited input in that, in sense that, and limited opinion on that. Obviously, I was a part of that. I'm not gonna say I wasn't, but very, very limited, in a sense that, for example, Jack from C9, right? The guy that I liked, he's a good businessman. I think he makes good deals, and I think he's alright. He had a thing where he was hands-on with the lineup, and I think there was a situation where, for example, I wanted to buy Justin JKS right back at the time, and he was hot stock then. It was 2019, 20, 100 teams were about to sell him, and I think I could have gotten a decent deal. They asked for 500K, but I think it could have been done a much better way. But then Jack decided no, and then he woke up one day and said, like, yeah, we're buying Asset Tag for the same amount. The player who had like 30 maps at the time for Astralis. They won Pro League back at the day against JKS, who was a proven top 20 player, the guy who I worked with in the previous 4 years, and we reached some more than decent results in that time with the lineup that we had, right? And I think that kind of pissed me off at the beginning, at the very beginning. And then I did agree with the Voxic pickup. I think he was a solid pickup. Messi was a great addition from Henry himself. He was the first name, and he messaged me. He said the first name that he wants to bring as a new talent was Messi, and I was like, yeah, I don't know him at the time, but he did bring him in. Even if I said no, I think he would bring him in. So it was very like kind of rookie mistakes in a way that were made back into 2020 with the Cloud9 lineup. If I had to do it all over again, probably would do much more differently than then. But it's just, For me, I mean, I take my part of the blame because I didn't do the research enough in 2020, especially with Alex, who I really didn't see eye to eye when it comes to the game itself. Like, disregard the personality and everything that's going on, but if your IGL and the coach see the game differently and see the processes before and after the game differently, then it's very limited to where you get to as a team, right? If the other players see that your coach, the person who is supposed to be in charge of your game, and the in-game captain and the IGL see the games differently, who can they trust? If they trust the IGL, then the coach will be on their ass, right? Thinking like maybe, they don't have a good relationship. If they trust the coach and they don't trust the IGL in the game, then what have you done, right? Yeah. It's just a mess. Complete mess, right? So I don't really blame Alex for anything. He's just the guy who he is, right? He just has his own vision of the game. He just likes the way he likes to play, and that's fine, and I like to play completely different game, and I like to organize completely different, but I didn't really have any kind of power to do it, right? So it was very turbulent in those months when it comes to Cloud9. I mean, I was my very immediate nearly departure from that as soon as I saw what is going on and the way that I cannot really have any impact on anything there. Even, I mean, it wasn't supposed to be like that, but it was. That's the honest truth. But the second part, taking over this project, yes, it's much more challenging in the sense that it's unknown right now when it comes to CS2. This is what I told the upper management and the guys in Bleed as well. There is no reason to rush into any buys now, to rush into any kind of crazy money spending shopping sprees, because we don't know yet how many talents are going to show up in the next few months. The game has just started to develop. You said it yourself. Some players that were really good in CSGO might not adapt into the game itself right now. Some players that were average in CSGO might play better, right, in CS2. I'll give you one stupid example from UK. That's Owen Smuya.
Yeah.
Like in CSGO, he was a talented player, right? He was a good player, solely. He had some results with Big, and then he had a turbulent time, and then he became a streamer. But in CS2, he's on another level when it comes to OPing. Even the OP is, nerfed right now, and it's problematic weapon. But he's farming these teams, and his stats are unbelievable. And now you can see that some people that were not so good, obviously Owen was decent in CSGO too, but some players that didn't adapt to CSGO very well can also be good in CS2, and that is where you need to take a breather and see like how is it going to develop. The easiest thing is to do is to spend $2-3 million on a couple of 3-4 players and give them salaries and spend a lot of money, but it's taking a gamble that you don't really need to take. So what if you miss the first major? You make the next 5, and who's gonna remember that you missed the first one? No one, right?
Yeah.
You just need to get over that little hump and think reasonably, rationally, right? With the money, with the choices, with how you want to do things and how you want to build up the core. Obviously, you're not gonna hit the target, the bullseye immediately with the lineup. There is going to be upgrades along the way in 3, 6, 8 months, right? When you hit the certain ceiling with the lineup, you'll see that you cannot get to another step, and then you maybe upgrade, then you take a step back, then you make another upgrade, and then you build something that's natural, right? Rather than just forcing yourself in with money, right? And ending up just falling on your ass. So it's going to be a tough process. Right now, I just started. Still looking to hire staff. I'm talking to my old friend, and you know him. I think you like him a lot, Gomez.
Of course, yeah.
And he's, I want to bring him in as a team manager and give him a little bit more responsibilities into the team. We're just now talking about it the last few days, because I believe that he is one of the smartest people I know outside in the esports. He's very very capable of doing things. The fucked up part is the fact that we have like time zones that are very different. The CEO is in Singapore. Yeah. I'm in Europe. The CEO of the company is in America. And if I have a team manager who is in Australia, it can be a little bit tricky, right? But overall, I'm in the process of like talking to everyone and trying to like get this thing, on their feet.
So, I mean, essentially, it sounds like you are basically, although maybe in the future you won't be, but for now you are the general manager. You're organizing all these moving parts, not just coaching the team.
Yeah, acting general manager for the time being, and I do enjoy doing that simply because I get to be hands on everything that's gonna happen in the CS division, right? Obviously, I'm not the one who is giving the green light when it comes to the certain amounts for the buyouts or for the salaries. I have my budget, I have my ranges of the salaries that I can go for, and the thing that I am deciding myself, which I do really like, is the length of the contracts. Some of the terms I get to negotiate with the players, I can offer, and this is what I asked as well, because I have been on the TO side as a broadcaster. You know how it is. It's super cutthroat when you have to deal with daily fees, and every fucking euro
Yeah.
is always a battle for it, right? If you get 5% more or 5% less, or and then you have to renegotiate, and somebody undercuts you, and it's a nightmare, right? And then I have been on the team side as a coach, and I know how it is difficult to get a fair deal from someone who is trying to get you. He tries to pay the minimum and get the maximum, which is like what people do, like in business, right? So I've been
Yeah.
there, and now I'm on this operational side, that I have to make the right decisions, and also I have to negotiate with myself at the same time, and with the player and with the org, right? And just negotiating with three different people at the same time while doing all this. It's kind of challenging, but it's fun, like I said. And I do get to decide who gets how much, who gets the what kind of length of contract and the terms and everything. I can make promises, I can make things happen, which I do really like. And you can definitely say I'm the acting general manager for the team right now until everything gets set up, and then it's just gonna be a decided what we want to do. But for now, it's a future problem.
Well, let's talk about the challenges of building a team. Right now, and again, I'm not trying to sound pessimistic, but it feels like coming in kind of after we've had that little mini roster mania that we sort of had, where there was a lot of changes ahead of the Blast Fall finals. It maybe feels that it's going to be harder for you now to like find players that are going to be available. Some notable players have obviously just moved on to other teams that maybe could have been players you could have picked up. Particularly, I think it's going to be tough to find an in-game leader. How are you approaching that? And do you agree, or do you think there's going to be opportunities there regardless?
No, I think you're totally right when you said like that, being pessimistic. I think that's the. I'm also concerned. I'm also like worried that we might not get it in time. But at the end of the day, so what? Like if you don't get the right team in the first major cycle in the first season, it is not a big deal, right? Because come March or April, there's going to be a lot of opportunities. As you know yourself, that the partnerships are ending at the end of this year. There is not going to be teams with the advantages to get players over other teams just because they have slot in the Pro League and Blast, right? Right now, in the last 4 years, the player would accept less money in order to play those events. Now you get the same chance as everyone else to be in those events, and the teams with a little bit more resources can get a little bit more advantage than they did before. But yeah, IGLs are a nightmare to get right now. They're simply not very good ones, and not very big pool of IGLs, because it's very difficult right now. But like I said, I'm even I tweeted about this. I'm talking to literally everyone that I can get my hands on, just to see where they're at, just because to see how the people think. It's not because we are desperate or anything. It's because I'm doing my research and I want to talk literally with you. I don't care, but because there is always that you talk with someone about a certain player, and then he says bad things, and then you come to another player and he says good things, and then it kind of messed up, and it kind of changes your opinion of who you want to talk to. I don't care about. I don't want to do that. I want to talk to the player directly. Just go into it and see how he feels. And I am old enough right now, experienced enough to see through the bullshit and see who's lying and who is being genuine, and who has a genuine motivation to play and to build something. And the experience that I have, I'm going to use that, and the mistakes I've made in the past, I'm going to use that to pick the right players here, even though it's, like you said, slim pickings. The org is not in a rush, right? It's not in a rush, right? If we miss right now, it's if we get a team that not exactly that like we wanted, not the 5 players that I want, I'll wait a little bit. I don't mind waiting a little bit, right? I mean, just why spend money now and then get a proper opportunity, but you don't have the money because you spend it because you rushed into it, right? Just save the money for a little bit longer, see what comes up, who's gonna be available, who's gonna come up. If it obviously use my experience and let's say expertise to scout somebody good maybe in the future, and just build it in a very natural way, So it's there are decisions to be made, right? Obviously, if the right opportunity to buy a core somewhere comes up, why the hell not? I mean, I'm willing to do that as long as it's smart, as long as it makes sense, role wise, money wise, the age wise for the players. It's just a lot of factors coming in. But if I see a good opportunity, I'll go for it. If I don't see it, then I'll pass on it. It's just simple as that.
Is there any obligation about regionality? Because the one thing I will say, if you know anything about Bleed, is they do have players from that part of the world where they're based. They've got a Dota team that has a player. Even sort of casual followers will know Tiger obviously played like for Alliance and Team Liquid and OG and bunch of big name teams in his career. But the majority of their team is from Singapore and Thailand, Philippines, and that's the same over in Valorant, where they've just signed Ye, which is sort of a huge coup to sign a player of that stature and ability. So I was wondering if, when you were like putting this team together, whether there was a Singaporean talent or a Thai talent or someone like that you were sort of essentially not obligated but strongly encouraged to have, so the team retains its core regional identity.
No, absolutely not. The thing is, like, for Bleed to kind of make a statement that they're serious about CS, they want a European core, right, from EU, because the strongest competition is obviously in EU. Everything is happening here in Europe, and they want to be a part of it, right? And they told me that it's my decision at the end of the day. I can go and maybe gather up a team that's going to have 2-2-1, and then I get the pick to play the Asian RMR and maybe qualify for the match. But what's good going to do to me? I'm either going to make some money, right? But we're going to get slammed by some CIS tier 3 team because I earned my spot through RMR in Asia, which is the weakest thing, and I don't think it's a correct way to build it.
Yeah.
Right? We can't take that route. It's not like impossible, but I would rather avoid it. I would try to go with EU and try to build something, because it shows character when it comes to the org. It shows that they're serious about entering CS. They are willing to go into the strongest region and try to make it work. And they have a good base, and they have a good headquarters in Singapore with a lot of employees. It's a big company, and the only fucked up part is the time zones, but we're making it work. But no, definitely there is no regional limitations or any kind of requirements or obligations for me to have. I mean, you saw that in their Valorant team, Legia is the coach, and they got Ye, the North American player, to play for that team. I think he's missing this event they're playing because he has health issues or whatever it is. And they're open to different things. They just want to have a successful teams, right? They are open-minded when it comes to building the team. So I mean, before me, I think they were negotiating with Kuben as well as a coach. Now he is a part of Ants. I think after him they came to me, and they're doing their work properly, right? They're not really rushing into things so far, right? I'm just saying the experience that I had so far. I'm not gonna promise anything in the future, but I'll do my best to keep it, as I'm talking about it right now.
So, I have to ask, but obviously I know you can't answer, but I'll ask anyway. Are there any players on the target, in your target list that you're able to talk about, or is that just something you would rather stay away from?
I mean, I can mention a few names that I was really interested in and still interested in, and but it has to make sense. Even if I'm interested in that player, if it doesn't make sense with the whole picture, then I have to skip on that player. It's just the way I want to do things to make it, solid, rock solid, the system, the structure, and everything that's good. I was thinking about Cirque. as an
Okay.
opper. He is a guy who has been, for example, farming quite a bit of CS2, and he's playing 12, 13 hours a day. I speak to him regularly. Owen Smuya is another opper that was interesting to me. JKS, I'm not gonna lie that I'm not interested in JKS at all. We spoke to TSM about acquiring Cypher as well. Just not part, but talking to him to see where he's at. Like we have a list. Actually, I have a list with different names for different roles, right? And see who fits the best, what fits best financially, and we need to look at the player's age as well to see how long the contract will be, how much we can look for him to deliver, and based on that, I need to make a long-term plan. Who's gonna replace him after 2 years? How do I approach that? When all these things that are basically just before signing a player that you need to think about. So yeah, we are looking at different players. Like I said it publicly on Twitter that we are exploring a bunch of different candidates right now. I'm not charging into anything, but that, for example, Cirque was always super good player for me. He had a misfortune of playing in one of the worst organizations in the last 7 years, and we have spoken about that experience, and he has some interesting things to say, obviously, and it was very unfortunate for him that, because how is it in Counter-Strike, when you play bad for a little bit longer, let's be honest, right? And then people kind of lose trust in you. Your stock gets slightly lower and lower and lower. And if you take a break, you tend to fade away in Counter-Strike, in our esport, right? You tend to fade away completely. People forget about it. It's very difficult to find a second chance. That's something that I did in 2017 or 18. I think it's 18 with Jacob. Like he faded out completely from G2, right? From FaZe, where he played, and he told me he was a week away from getting a regular job, like a construction job, right? And then the call came in. He flew into Detroit and he started playing with us. I don't mind that, taking that kind of risk when I see a potential, when I know that somebody is good. And he was at the same age 5 years ago that Cirque is now, for example, at 24. And obviously he has a lot more years in front of him if he is willing to put the time in. We all know that he has a skill. Like I said, he's farming quite a bit. CS2 now. I'm very interested in signing him if that makes sense in the bigger picture when it comes to the whole squad. But there are also other names. There are also different offers. I was interested in Shiro as well at some point, but his English is a little bit here and
not
there.
quite there yet.
Yeah, here and there. So it like I said, it has to make sense. We were looking at everything. That's just the offers. Then we have the entries. Then we have the rifles. Then we have the support players. The one with the dirty work. So it's just a big process, and there is a long list of candidates to be signed. But yeah, that's some of the names that I'm.
What's the deadline you're looking for to have your team set up?
Honestly, in a month from now.
Okay.
I think in a month from now, I would be okay if we do it. It's not gonna be easy because it's not just, even if we are the fastest organization when it comes to contracts and dealing with this stuff. It's always the agents. It's always the counter offers. It's always the org trying to block you, trying to get $3 more above the price you agreed on already, just because they want to be the winner of the argument or whatever the fuck is it. And it's always like that, and that's what scares me the most, right? Where people are just dragging their asses and trying to sound smart and trying to do the smart thing when in the fact they are hurting themselves and the players and us in the process. So, it's just a month from now, I would be happy to have 5 players and do the boot camp before the open qualifier, if that's possible. But we'll see. It's not going to be the easiest thing.
Yeah, I'll add to that point as well, just as a general topic. I do think the one thing that's pissing me off is, in the midst of all of this, esports winter market correction, whatever people are calling it, there really doesn't seem to be this kind of correction in the mindset from the agents that are still, and I've been a big advocate for player agents. I always tell players to when you're negotiating a contract, have a sort of expert do it for you, have someone to advocate for your best interests, because you might just get caught up in the, oh, fuck, I really want to sign, I really want to play, and you might not get your dues. But what I'll say for sure is I think the last 2 years, some of the contracts that have been flying around that these agents are negotiating, they're irresponsible. They're irresponsible for everybody, frankly. I mean, when you end up with a situation, I mean, JKS is an example of this. It's one of the reasons why I've never kind of turned a blind eye to how poorly he performed in Complexity, is because he was making a fuck ton of money down there. Now, the problem with that is, as soon as he was out of favor with the team and he goes on the bench, he loses like a massive cut of that. I don't know what the exact percentage in his contract was, but I've seen some contracts where you lose 70% of your salary if you're on the bench, right? So you sign for a big salary, and then if you're ever out of favor, the orgs will bench you forever, because it's not in their financial interests to have you in the team if you're not performing or you don't get on well with the other guys or whatever it is. And so you're in bench land, making a fraction of what you thought you were going to make. And obviously, when other players hear some of the numbers, their agents start asking, well, if he's worth this, I'm worth that, right? Which theoretically would be good if the numbers made sense. But I mean, $50,000 a month, north of that, in some case, it's not sustainable for anyone, no matter how good the player is. So I know how, agents really have to get on board with where the rest of the market is right now, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the agents are kind of misguided, and they have a misconception of how much players should be earning right now. And like I said, the partnerships are ending. That's going to change quite a bit of the landscape in CS right now. I mean, it hits the 12 months from now, but definitely, I mean, if I'm the agent and I know that maybe my player can get you the $2 million deal from a sponsor, whatever company is, let's say the gambling sponsors. I know you are not a big fan of those, but the thing is,
I don't mind, actually. If it's licensed, give a fuck.
Exactly.
I'm all right with it.
Let's say the player is so marketable, he's so popular on social media, right? And he's on these platforms, and he can deliver a $2 million sponsor from the gambling, whatever licensed, company. So why don't I give him the money that he wants? I will give him the money because he's going to bring me more, right? But if I have a player that's basically average or above average, but he's not doing anything else, then I will give you a fair deal, but I'm not going to overpay you. And this is what I've been telling on all these meetings that I have so far with the players, that, because I was on the receiving end of these deals, and now I'm on the other side. The only thing that I can promise you is that I'm going to give you a fair deal. I'm not going to lowball you with 1.5K if you're worth 5, just to get a negotiation open, because I'm not going to do that, because it will create a bad, faith negotiation, and people and it's just, I'm going to offer you a fair deal. I'm going to give you the bonuses based on performance. I'm going to offer you a decent amount of money that you deserve based on your current value on the market. I'm going to give you, the length of the contract that you deserve based on your age, skill, whatever it is, right? And then we can discuss. If that's something that you don't like, well, I just move on the next name on the list, right? And then 3-4 months later, I will acquire the player that I need. Maybe not 3, maybe 3 weeks later, right? Because there is also always hungry players ready to jump in, ready to understand. But it's just, when it comes to these agents and all this, the bench money salary, just to take a look at one example, that you have, let's say, 20K salary, right? And then 70% of that goes away if you are on a bench. You are supposed to be the superstar, whatever. They want to sell you for $150,000, and then they have to pay only $7,000 a month or $8,000 a month while you're on the bench, right? So they can do that for the next year and a half and still be in profit after they sell you, right? So it just doesn't make any sense for the player itself, for the organizations. I think it's being done the way it should not be done at the moment, but there's a lot of stuff to fix outside of that, so I don't think that's a primarily issue in CS, but it should definitely be better when it comes to the agencies and contracts and all these things.
And obviously as well, I want to kind of work this in, the sort of ongoing issues that you've had, with certain figures in the esports space, notably Evil Geniuses. You've been very vocal in your criticism about how that organization was run. And obviously, I think your criticism now is vindicated. I mean, I obviously had my concerns at the same time because of what I was hearing, behind the scenes. It wasn't just so much what was going on the server, but I also thought it was pretty unprofessional to uh, publicly leak details of a job interview. I thought was kind of out of pocket. I didn't like that.
It's just unfortunate that happened. The thing with
Mm.
EG, I spotted it very early on, and I keep warning people since 2021 that this organization have problems. And also behind the scenes from different sources, let's say it like that, people have been telling me the worst possible stories that you can possibly hear. I'm not gonna obviously say the names or say the stories because it's not my place to be, and they're already gone, so I don't really care anymore. But the thing is like they made me go through this 5 stages of interviews with people who clearly have no idea about esports whatsoever or how to do anything in the CS environment or the CS:GO division at the time, right? I spoke to Valence, who I ranked highly in because the guy won a major. He was a coach of C9 back at the time. He was in North America together with me doing all these things. We were playing against each other. He's a highly educated person with a lot of, with a big brain. And I thought maybe he was the right. And when I talked to him, I got the sense that, I should be talking to this guy, right? And then when they moved me to 4 different people, I don't even remember their names, but one of them was GamerDoc and all these people who I listened to them, what they're saying. And Richard, it's just like it makes no sense what they're saying. They're just saying nonsense, like just so they can sound smart because they had some sort of stupid title in their Twitter header or whatever description, and they think that means something. It doesn't mean anything if you don't have a single year or a month of experience being in the trenches, being in the servers, being in the tournaments, on all these things that you have to go through to understand how our industry works and how what players like, what players dislike, how you're gonna reach to the play, how you're gonna make a successful division and make a successful team. They just were there because I don't even know why actually, but somebody put them there, right? So I keep talking to these people and they ghosted me after that. They didn't reply to my messages. It took them a while. I tried to bump the conversation. I was really enthusiastic about joining the organization because I put EG on a pedestal because, it's fucking EG. Let's go, right?
Yeah.
But it's fine. And then after that, when the whole drama happened, I wasn't really criticizing anybody personally. I was criticizing the performance of certain people, including GamerDoc, right, and Nicole and whoever was in charge there, right, and because they were running the organization into the ground, right, and the thing is, after that, she went on Twitter and just released some of the stuff that was said in the interview, which is not even that she just told me, "Oh, you were so enthusiastic." Of course I was. I wanted the job. I mean, I had the vision to do it, and insulted me in the process, calling me a
Think it was a mediocre white man or something.
Mediocre or middle-aged white man.
Which is, you can put that on your fucking tombstone, mate. She did you there.
It's just, I mean, what the fuck? The thing is, like, to be fair, after Duncan released the video, she came to me privately and apologized for everything. And she really did, and it sounded sincere. I think she was really, shooken up by the whole thing. And since then, I just kind of laid off it. I told her it's in the past, it's in the whatever. I don't hold it against you. It happened. I don't care. So I just want to state that as well. It's not just the shitty things that they did. She came out and she did apologize to me in private. And I appreciate that. I mean, that was a
I think I don't know if you've ever been there in your life, but I can identify with it. You have like a figurehead who's kind of very charismatic behind the scenes and is very good at creating like a paradigm where it's you versus them, whoever them needs to be to get a job done. Like, for example, like Mourinho's fucking team talks were always, everyone hates us, the refs hate us, we're going to get nothing, the fans fucking hate us, the world hates us, like, it's just us in this room, so we got to get shit done just for ourselves. He used to use that, like, mind game as a little motivating factor. And I think a lot of people at EG basically got gassed up by the former CEO, Nicole, in a way where it almost had like a hypnotic effect, and they were doing things. They felt personally attacked every time EG were criticized, and so Nicole never did this publicly, but all of the people under Nicole would be publicly tweeting and see the pipeline and all this stuff. And then obviously, as the org collapsed and it became more and more apparent, just the sort of staggering level of incompetence and lack of support that EG were offering their staff, I think they probably all feel a bit stupid, having planted the flag and gone, balls out to defend the indefensible, and then, you get fired and oh shit.
I mean, the whole, like, instead of embracing the whole thing and spinning it their way, they start arguing with the broadcast talent. Pimp as well.
And actually,
who does that?
Complained behind the scenes about, I think it was about a bit you guys did. Might have been your bit.
No, I think it was a bit that they released in the Pro League. It was just after I did my private Grand Slam. Whoever eliminates EG gets $1,000, and I think I did a bit on stage in Katowice as well before it. And then I think the last stroke was when they did the whole thing in Pro League in Malta. And then I assume, I don't know this for sure, but I assume that EG as a partner, obviously in the Louvre agreement, came to ESL and asked them to, like, kind of, protect them in a way, right?
Yeah, I've got to be honest, not the first time I've heard of a team doing that. I mean,
I know a couple of more teams that did this. Yes, I know. To me as well. Some of the teams did that as well, but I gotta say that ESL was not forbidding me to do stuff, right? They were not, it's like just cutting me off in a way, right? They were, they asked me at some point to kind of be a little bit more, diplomatic about it, but never really like, listen, you need to stop or whatever, right? It's just, I understand the ESL was in a position where one of the sides, you have the talent that is like, part of the show and the product that you release, and the other side, the partner who invested money and who is like officially your partner in the league, and it's like very difficult position to be in the middle, right? And EG fucked up every possible thing from start to end, like with the lineups, with the staff, with the whole plan, the business plan, whatever they call it, the blueprint, and it was just nonsense from the beginning till the end, and now they're dead and forgotten.
Yeah. And, it's I'm literally hoping that as part of this ongoing liquidation process, somebody is able to at least buy the name, or EG survives in some capacity. Because we've had this happen before, happened with Complexity, where, Complexity were one of the, biggest esports brands in NA. They made a deal with CGS where they bought the rights to the brand in exchange for money and a job for the totally real guaranteed 5 years as a GM for Jason Lake. 2 years in, obviously they pulled the plug, but the Complexity brand was still their asset. Jason Lake restarted Complexity, but it was just called Col. You just used their tag. So it was Col Esports, and then went through a sort of legal process to get the rights to the original brand back, which I think he paid a nominal fee of $1 to get the brand back, and then Complexity back and real again. So, these things can happen. And I think EG is such a strong brand and such a historic brand. I don't want the brand to die. Now that all of the incompetent management is out of the space, now that Peak 6 venture capital is exiting the space, I hope somebody can just come in as a custodian and keep EG alive.
You know who can come in and take them right now? Because if you want to buy EG, now is the time, right? You want to buy the name and the brand and whatever. Well, the people that you don't like the most, right?
That narrows it down. Go on, who?
Well, the Saudis, right? They can come in with money and their own money, and
I mean,
get
actually,
somebody.
at least then the fucking brand name Evil Geniuses would work.
I mean, it just
It would
doesn't make
fit then,
sense. No, the thing is, like, I mean, right now the stock is lowest it can be, and you can still buy it, and obviously they have unlimited money, so there is a chance for them. I don't want EG name to die because it's such a legendary organization that was unfortunately run by these people and basically killed off in space of what, 2.5 years, 3 years.
Yeah, it's one of the most spectacular declines I've ever seen, from acquisition in 2019 to total liquidation and collapse by 2020 at the end of 2023. I mean, it's
And it's not just CS; it's also Dota and everything
yeah.
else.
Oh, it's totally
The
across the
league,
board.
and it's just
Yeah, I mean, they've just had a buyback on their League of Legends slot, which apparently went for like a reputed 30 million or something because they didn't get the original when they were going for 10. So they're meant, the rumor is, I don't know if it's ever been publicly confirmed, but they paid like 30 million for an LCS slot, and they've just done a buyback that's in the region of 5.
well, that's a good business right there.
I mean,
That sums it up. The whole
Yeah.
competency of those people working there, right? It's just
Yeah, I mean,
that
it's
really sums it up right
insane. Yeah, it really is. But yeah. Look, I'll move on from that and say, that I think it's good to see broadcast talent just in general not be afraid to kind of rock that particular boat, because I think it's like one thing where in the job you say, oh, Evil Geniuses aren't playing very well right now, and even though teams don't like it, players don't like it, they're super sensitive about it, it doesn't generate any trouble because people see it as being in the wheelhouse. But the thing that annoys me is in esports we have this tendency to expect our broadcast talent to not talk about all of the stuff peripheral to the game, even as it impacts on the game. And it's like no other sport I've ever followed. For example, people talked about when Man City were being investigated for financial fair play. People were talking about it when Man City were playing. Would it affect the team? Would it affect Guardiola? Would he leave? Would it generated just thousands of hours of content just around this one thing? Was present in match commentary whenever there was a lull in the game. Nobody said to those commentators, actually, criticizing Manchester City's transfer policy makes you a big stinky meanie poo, so stop it, please. You're upsetting the Man City fan. No one said that because it would be ridiculous. When the Raiders, my team, we had a player crash his car at 150 miles an hour into another woman's car and killed her outright and go to prison. We don't just go, oh, where's Ruggs today? You fucking talk about it, and it's horrible, and you have to talk about these things and how it might affect the team. In esports, it seems broadcast talent analysts especially, you're just like attacked every time you talk about something that, or are critical of something that you've got every right to be critical of.
I mean, those things are happening in front of our eyes. Like, it's not like that we cannot really sit there and pretend like, yeah, it's all fine with EG, nothing really happens, they're doing great. Meanwhile, they're dead last on every single event they play. The organization inside the whole structure of the company is rotten completely. I mean, look at what Manchester United is feeling right now. Like in the last ever since Alex Ferguson left, right? So it's just terrible, right? And look at it now with Ten Hag and the things with Onana, and before with Cristiano Ronaldo and all these things. And you have the Anton, and what's that guy that was accused of sexual misconduct?
Greenwood.
Yeah, Mason. It is Mason Greenwood or something like that. And you talk about it. You just make it a part of the content. Like, that's what people want to hear, right? You don't have to please only the fans of that team that is being in a shitty position right now. Of course they're gonna be mad, right? But there are people that want to hear this stuff. They are not gonna sit there while the house is on fire and talk about just the flowers in the garden and like, oh, look at the fence is so good. Meanwhile, in the background the house is completely on fire and I'm just sitting there just smelling the flowers. It just fucking can't be done like that. And I think on the broadcast I tried my best to be fair and harsh and like talk about the things that need to be talked about, right? Sometimes I go overboard, but yeah, sometimes it can be a little bit more smoother or political, but I have my personality, and that it is what it is, right? So I think ESL people liked it, and that's why I keep calling me back on these events. And
Yeah.
it's just obviously the fans of the certain teams that I go against are not gonna like me. They're gonna go on Reddit and do all these things, but you know how that works. So it's just what it is. But for example, players respect me quite a bit simply because they know I say things as they are. I have no filter. They know that when they talk to me, I'm gonna say things to them that are completely true. So it's
Yeah.
just
I mean, look, the thing that always blows me away is fans don't even understand how important it is to have somebody on a broadcast, somebody in the space that pisses them off, that does express opinions they might not vibe with. It's an essential part of every sport, in the sense that, think about, like, I grew up with sports talk radio as a kid. I used to religiously tune in every weekend and listen to British sports talk. When I got older, started following American sports and learning about that. Started learning about, like Mike and the Mad Dog and all the great proud history of sports radio talk, in America, and how they do things, and shock jocks, and, Skip Bayless, and all of this. And there's a reason all of that is there. And it's there because people like to fucking argue about sports. You can't argue if everyone is like sipping tea with their little fucking finger extended on a desk. Actually, yeah, Hooksy did get 0 kills, but he still had a profound impact on the game. Think about it, and like, if we're all just doing that, then what's the fucking point? It's like you're gonna get bored as a fan of that. It's not gonna hold your interest, and so there always has to be someone who steps up into that realm of being a bit more contentious, a bit more brash in how they express their opinions. And I'll tell you, if we didn't have you, Yanko, Maui, people who were like willing to do these things, desks would be really fucking boring, and discussion around the games and the tournaments would be far, far less.
I think it's also important with who they pair you with. I
Of
think
course, yeah.
whoever is next to you, the host, needs to be very reactive to what you do. Your fellow analyst needs to be very reactive to what you say. Like, I can't just go say something outrageous and set somebody up for something to say and reply, and he completely misses the point, and then I look like a clown only just because I said that. Then that wasn't really a conversation that I was going for, and it turned into something else, and it turned into a little bit cringe in some cases, right?
Yeah,
So,
sure.
and for example, like, I like working even with Yanko because he confronts me on some things, right? And then we go against each other when it comes to certain topics, certain players, and he's been longer in the game than me, so it's like it's always funny for me to just confront him on these issues live on broadcast. Even the bit that we did it with Hooksy in Cologne semi-final was great. It was absolutely it was great, right? I was caught completely off guard by him coming into the thing, right? I didn't know a single thing that was going to happen. So we just rolled with it in a way, and we made it a thing, right? So when I have Yanko, when I have Trace, when I have even Maniac, I like working with, because he understands. He's also long in the game, right? He understands what time he needs to react to something crazy that I say, and he reacts the proper way, and he make it like a complete conversation that people appreciate, right? And obviously there are situations where you don't really have a chemistry with a fellow analyst, and sometimes it does look a little bit awkward and weird, and it doesn't look very like a very good product that you're putting on a broadcast. It's all part of the thing, right? And if you have people who understand that, and obviously the analysts themselves, they need to understand that and come up and say, like, listen, pair me up with this guy, or maybe we can do this, and give your insight about the whole thing, and speak with the host, for fuck's sake, as well, who has a major role in the show. He is the freaking host, right? He controls the flow of the conversation, and he does all these things, and he needs to be included in that as well, just to jump in and ask the right question and cut you off when you need to be cut off, and just just change the subject when it needs to be done, together with all the sponsor shit that needs to be said during all this like tier event broadcast. You know how it is. You have these segments where you have the contents and the interview and the sponsor and the call outs and all this shit that you have in your run of show. So it's a very complex thing, and But the bottom line is, like I said, I like to just go out and then and have fun and say what I say and include the knowledge and insight as well when there is something to talk about, right? When there is a game that's 16-1 between Vertex and FaZe, then what the fuck am I going to talk about?
Yeah.
Like the strategical part of the game? They just ran out and killed them.
Well, look, let's also say this, right? The thing that pisses me off, and I was going to bring this up, is you get these plebs on Reddit. Now, keep in mind, everyone on Reddit is LARPing as like a minimum global elite 3K face it player, right? But they're LARPing because statistically that can't be true. If you look at the curve, but I've never seen anyone admit they're like less than 15K. In CS2, right? Like bare minimum, they everyone's opinion, and even so, right? Like, okay, you have coached teams, like you've coached a team of Australian players to a semi-final at a major, right? Which is like that's bonkers. That's like an insane achievement. Yet people say things like, "Kassad doesn't know the game. Kassad doesn't understand the game. He just rides Nico's dick. He doesn't understand the game." And I'm like, okay, how do you understand what he understands when you have an inarguably lower understanding? They can never answer this question. This is how I approach mentally ill people now in esports. I just ask them the question, well, how do you know? What's your expertise? And they can't answer. And they go, they short circuit in real time because they're fucked in the brain. Like, you know what I mean? And I'm trying to snap them out of it. I'm trying to do them a favor. But they don't want to come along for it because they built this little fucking, illusory mind palace that's so like pleasant for them to exist in, where everyone cheats against them in the game. They're the best. They could go pro if they want to. All their opinions are sacrosanct, and anyone they don't like is an irredeemable piece of shit. And that's just where they live. And you can't snap people out of that. It's really hard. They have to want to come out of that. So when I see people say, like, you don't understand the game and stuff on these desk segments, what they don't understand is you aren't given the fucking tools to talk about the game. Our analysts aren't. You get to talk over a highlight package. No one gives you a telestrator. No one's bringing up X's and O's in real time. And by the way, fans don't even like that shit. The people who say, I wish there was more analysis, every time someone does analysis, you turn off the fucking stream or you downvote the video and it doesn't get any views. So listen, I know for a fact if they put you in front of one of those telestrators, like the weatherman segments, as they call them, like the fucking Mahone zone or whatever the fuck, you would knock it out the park and people would understand you do have a high level understanding of the game. But you're not given those tools because actually what does work for engagement is talking shit. That's what people like.
Yeah, that's where they engage, like, and that's where they find entertaining. The thing is, like, when it comes to the segment, you know how it is. I'm sure you explained this to people before. You get between the maps total of 7 or 8 minutes, like full length,
if you're lucky.
But you don't get to talk those 7 or 8 minutes.
No,
you get to talk about a DHL drop or whatever the sponsor needs. Like, I don't know if there is a gambling sponsor, or there is a segment, the pre-recorded interview with the coach between the maps, or something like after the first map, there goes the sideline reporter that talks about the previous map with the coach or one of the players that kind of cuts off a couple of minutes from your segment too, and you end up having like a couple of minutes only to sum up completely what happened and be entertaining and be insightful at the same time, right? So it's not and there is also a fellow analyst next to you who likes to say his piece. And there is a host. And there is a producer in your ear saying 30 seconds.
Shut the fuck up.
For 45 seconds. You know, the thing is, like, I always told the producers, never ever talk in my fucking ear, especially when I'm talking. If you need to talk with the host. Don't interrupt me because I lose my train of thought.
Duncan always hated that as well.
That's the worst. That's the worst.
That was basically one of the biggest jobs I did on a desk. Was I would tell the producer, like, never talk to the analyst, talk to me because I've got voices in my head all the time. Like, so
exactly.
I'm crazy. So, like, just fucking go for it. And I would be like directing traffic. So when I was off camera, I'd be like, you got 10 seconds, Dunk, 10. Like, 10,
well, yeah,
10.
there is like a sign language. For example, we have with Trace. I'm gonna reveal it here, but I don't give a fuck you. Fuck Trace. The thing is, like, when he says, like, when he's like, I'm talking and he's like this. that means like, for example, there is like cut it out quick. We have like a couple of more seconds, right? Or a tap or something like some sort of he leans towards the other way, whatever it is. Like he gives you a signal that means that you need to get shorter point, or you don't need to say anything because it needs to go straight to the interview, which are most of the time useless. This is what I'm getting pissed off about in the broadcast when we have interviews with players who hate to be there, who are not giving interviews even though they're getting paid thousands of dollars to give the interviews, but they're not giving them. And when they are accepting to say something, they're saying like, yes, no, we played good, they played bad, instead of letting us talk about it. And when you have some interesting person who's gonna say something insightful, for example, like Dupree's the person that I love talking to all the time. Or Hampus used to say a lot of things when he did interviews. Like there is like players that will say that Apex is one of them too. They will say things about the game. Like, listen, we made mistakes in the mid rounds, and like when they do these smokes, we didn't react properly. Our pistols didn't go, well because we missed whatever the smoke is. And they will tell you things, right? Instead of like, we didn't hit our shots, and well, we didn't sleep well, and
I wish what they should do is, they should do it like they do in the NFL. If we're going to do it at all, and I don't particularly like this in the NFL, but what they do is they go and we've got Carla on the sideline, and what happened there? And she'll go, well, Sauce Gardner walked past me with it and said his thumb's dislocated and he's gone down the tunnel. So we don't know if he's going to be back on the field. That's what's going on here. Back to you. And boom. And that's how that works, right? And it's like, we didn't interview Sauce Gardner about his fucking thumb. Somebody went, got the relevant information from the sidelines and fed it into a live analysis spot. A live commentary. And so, we should probably do that, because I agree. I want more from the analysis desk. And once you factor in sponsor reads, once you factor in highlights, once you factor in ad breaks, there's barely any time to talk about anything relevant at all. And all you really get to do is make very sort of glib points about the flow of the game. Nico needs to step up, Hooksy needs to step up, whatever it is, right? It's like, there just isn't time to go in depth.
If we have the time, sometimes let's say we're in the green room watching the game and we see a specific round that happened, right? Something crazy, and then we said we write to our producer like, let's get the replay of the round number 14 and play it from the post plant, so we can just discuss it. How they had like a couple of smokes left, but they didn't use it in the post plant, and a molly didn't get used on that corner, because if it did, that would kill the guy and you would get a defuse, whatever the fuck happened, right? And sometimes that's very useful, but that doesn't always happen. Something that that can always talk, because you can go in the different direction, say, listen, this eco was lost because of this guy was pushing too much, and that caused the player X to rotate from his position, which kind of released the space of the site, and that's how they got in, and they got a shot from fucking whoever on the deagle, and that's it, right? But overall, it's very little time to be entertaining and insightful and all these things, especially when you have people next to you and people in your ear, and the sponsorship deals that you need to, call outs that you need to go through, and especially when you have like a technical break and the tournament is delayed, then that's even shorter sometimes, and it's a mess. So what people are seeing is completely different, and completely like, not different, but they don't really see the full picture and the full scale of what's going on behind the camera and in between all these things that they're seeing on the actual screen.
Yeah. So look, can I ask you about the community response to your work? Because I mean, listen, I'm honest about it. The thing that made me jaded and really tipped me over the edge into just being like, fuck it. I just cannot stand this business anymore. And everything I do has now a very sort of almost selfish lens to it. Like, I only do stuff because I want to do it. I only write the stories I want to write because I value them. I don't give a fuck about the community anymore. Like, they can go fuck themselves. I even said on a stream the other day, in an ideal world, what would happen is they would install CS2, it would sell all their skins on the market for pennies against their will, and then it would uninstall itself and brick their PC. That would be the best thing that could happen to the CS community if there was just no CS community. That's what I think now. Because fuck them. Because I put up with years of like, hey guys, I'm exposing scumbags so we can all have a good scene. hey guys, I'm helping players get paid money that they were owed. Hey guys, I'm doing interviews with people so we can like enjoy their perspective. Hey guys, I'm doing a podcast that's like really popular and talks about things in an irreverent fashion. I've done all these things that benefit the community, but I'm a piece of shit and I deserve to die. Every single day I'm told that I'm a piece of shit, deserve to die, should kill myself. I'm a fat loser and I should kill myself, essentially, is what the CS community say about me now. So, all right, fine, cool. Let's keep that energy then. Next time you're all getting ripped off, whatever. I'm not there. Fuck you. So that's where I'm at. The feedback really bothered me. Every other community attacking me, I don't care. I don't want to be part of the Rocket League community. I don't want to be part of the Dota community. But I came through the CS community. I've been in it for nearly 20 years. So all of that stuff, yeah, it hurts and it makes me very angry. I don't think I deserve that. So when I read threads about you, when you're the villain of the day, and it's Kassad's a piece of shit, and Kassad should fuck off, I don't know why he's hired, like, does it affect you, like, at all?
No. No. The thing is,
I'm just a big sensitive bitch.
No, the thing is, they don't bother me whatsoever. I found like a recipe how to kind of deal with that. Obviously, I'm not a perfect person, right? Sometimes I am a jackass. Sometimes I go overboard. But the thing is, I try to be as fair as possible. I try to be, as honest as possible. I try to not fuck over anyone. I do like I appreciate the positive feedback. Yeah. Does it sometimes bother me? Sometimes it did, yeah. Because I also don't think I deserve it, because it's not, some of the things people are saying are not true whatsoever, because I don't see anything close enough to what I'm seeing. But the thing is, like, I realize I don't give a fuck anymore. Like, I have the respect of my colleagues in the broadcast world. I have the respect of the players that I've worked with. I have the respect of the organizations, of the TOs, and I know that, and I know I did a good job there, right? Simply because they keep hiring me. They keep inviting me. They never said anything against me. They never backstabbed me in any way. They were good to me, which means they respect what I do, which is very important for me. But as far as the community and the fans or the haters, yes, I get similar messages. I got similar messages as you did. Hope you die. Hope you get cancer. Hope your fucking country burns to the ground. Some guy. That was the worst thing. The worst message that I got was, remember, like, few months back, maybe 6 months back, when the rumor was that I was going to join G2 as a coach.
I remember that, yeah.
There was this dude that messaged me and said, like, if you don't join G2, I am going to kill myself and it's going to be all your fault.
Jesus.
So what the fuck do I do there? Like, it's just those messages, they bother me. Like, I don't know what to do. Should I ignore it? Should I tell him to seek professional help?
I mean, listen.
What do I do?
I got to be honest. Strategy with stuff like that, I always ignore it. I mean, if the platform that it comes through has like a report, so they get sent like they do on Reddit. You get sent the mental health charity thing. I'll do that. But you can't, because once you start engaging, you're in a very strange position.
Yeah.
So.
The thing is that the recipe that I had was like, listen, I go out. I figured out how to play the Twitter game. I think it's just an easy game to play at this point. Obviously, right now I'm a representative of a professional esports organization, and I'm not gonna be a very, let's say, the way I was before, because I do represent people behind me, and people are counting on me to paint the picture of the organization. So I have to be mindful of that. But the recipe for me was definitely I go out and I say outrageous things that I think that people think that outrageous. I trigger people highly, and then they go out, make threats, make videos, make fucking send messages that I don't even read, they don't even watch, they don't even listen.
Yep.
And then I just go about my day. Tomorrow I do the same. They get pissed off. And tomorrow I do the same. They get pissed off. I don't even read that shit, unless somebody is like really messaging me. I look at this, look at that. I don't give a fuck. Right? I just go on my day. I'm happy with what I did. Right? I didn't say anything wrong or anything, that's not true. If I called somebody out because they were like playing bad, or if I called a person that needs to be kicked because for the benefit of the team, because that's what I think. Because I believe that will improve the team, and my opinion there is being paid for. and they
Yeah.
invited me to be on that platform, and paid me to say what I think about the game, and or the team or the player or whatever the fuck is the subject of that day. So like I said, I just go about my day. I don't read the messages. I just say outrageous things. They go out by their business, make Reddit threads, make videos, fucking whatever, DMs. I don't read. I don't listen. Just do it tomorrow over again and over and over and over. And just that's how it works.
Uh, do you think that because of that, there's a large part of the community that are kind of like willing you to fail?
Listen, I told you at the beginning. I love pressure. I don't mind pressure. If they like me, just imagine how shitty will they feel when I don't fail and I do succeed, right? So it's just those things, they don't bother me whatsoever. And if they want me to fail, that's on them. If they're unhappy with their own lives, so they're focused so much on my failure and my life, that's on them. I don't have time, even with the Hooksy thing, for example, right? I don't know the guy. Like, I never spoke to the guy more than 5 words.
Yeah.
Whatsoever. I even after Katowice, I congratulated him when he was calling me out. Like, are you watching Kassad and whatever, right? That's where the famous "I was watching" later came on.
Yeah,
Even
yeah.
after that event, I congratulated him personally. I mean, on Twitter, right? I sent him a message, and everything was fine, right? And then everything else happened after that. But the thing is, I don't hate the guy personally. He made me a good guy. I don't know. I was always criticizing his
I
performance.
think he's a good
and-
guy. I definitely think he is. The thing I can't stand about him is that, like, because he's obviously a sentient being, right? So he knows he's shit.
Yeah.
Like, he knows that. He knows enough about the game to know he's shit at the game, right? There's just no, like, by a tier 1 standard, he is conceivably one of the worst pros we've ever had. And he knows that. And so what I don't like is when he says things in interviews, like, people who say I'm shit at the game don't know what they're talking about, and creates a reality where he cannot be criticized. And it's like, I hate to break it to you, brother, but that's just not true. Like, now, I like the guy. I think he's done some gangster shit. I think losing a parent mid-tournament, like literally as you touch down, and then going on to win that tournament, having the mental strength to do that, it's almost unprecedented. It's almost unparalleled. It's like documentary, like movie shit. And like, I think the way he handled himself through all of that, it was a high pressure situation. They had to win that tournament. His job was on the line. That's like insane what he did. Like, mad respect. Like, I made a point of saying that publicly, and I don't always praise players, but I praised him for that. When the Russian media was, the Ukrainian media was saying he was a pro-Putin still because that clearly fake account said like high $500 or whatever the fucking meme was. I debunked that. I went into it, researched it, debunked it, and published an article debunking it because people shouldn't be lied about. Now, all of that said, Hooksy's still shit at the game and shouldn't be the IGL for G2. Like, and so I'm sorry. Like, it just is what it is. I'd love to see him in a tier 2 team again. I hope he gets an opportunity after G2. But I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie about my opinions. I'm not gonna ignore statistical evidence. I'm not gonna ignore the eye test of when he's playing.
Absolutely. I never said anything against him. I never said like he should rot in hell because he is a terrible human being. No, I said that he doesn't belong in G2. With the players they have, he's just the one that doesn't belong there. His performance is like below any standard of tier 1. Like, it's far from below. He did well by winning Kato and Cologne, right? And then the Banana Cup finals. But the thing is, like, it's reality, right? They didn't qualify for the majors. Things in between, the turbulence, and even now what's happening with the team, and it's not the perfect picture. And I said it, and I stand behind it, right? And the thing is, like, personally, I don't know the guy. Maybe he's the best human ever. Or maybe he's the worst human. I don't know. I don't care, right? The only thing I'm talking about is the performance on the server, the things on the server, right? And the things, like, the same thing happened with EG before they started going into it personally. Like, I criticized the gamer dog's performance or her, credibility and her, capability of doing her job. Because as a director of performance, when your team is performing the worst for the last God knows how long, that you're not doing really a good job, right? So this is what I criticized, and then obviously I got attacked again, and now we are 2 years later. The EG is gone, and nobody's saying, "Oh yeah, Kassad, you're right." It's just the way it is. The same thing goes with you when you do your shit. When you expose this and that, nobody says, "Oh yeah, great work." But they're
No.
first to jump in
They don't.
to fucking get a thread and do all it. I mean, it is what it is. That's the thing that I was trying to explain to you, that this fucking world is unjust in many ways, right?
Yeah.
It just there is injustice in every single aspect of life. And I accepted that long time ago. And if I do a good thing, I don't expect to be fucking praised and put on a fucking pedestal or anything. But at least try to understand the whole picture before you take a dump on me with whatever fucking spiteful words that you have. So it's just unfortunate. That's
Yeah.
that's it.
I mean, and again, like, honestly, do you? Because the other criticism at you is like you hate Hooksy, right? And you're a big mean bully, and you're a Nico dick rider. Now, all analysts are going to play favorites to like some degree, but do you think you do that?
I don't think I'm doing that. Maybe
Yeah.
to some degree, yeah. Because yes, Nico is he's like a younger brother to me, right?
Yeah.
I know this kid when he was like 10 years old. He was sleeping in my house on my bed. It's just when he was just a child, maybe not 10, but like 14, right? He needed to get written permission to get outside of the country when we went to Romania, and I need to be his caretaker with my signature because I was over 18 and he was under when we were traveling for DreamHack in 2013. Like, we are friends for a very long time and are very good friends. We had ups and downs. He recently got mad at me, for example, for saying that thing in Dallas with the fucking camera and thing. And
Yeah.
we discussed it. Like, the thing, that is the example. Like, I saw the bullshit that he was doing and I called it out, but nobody caught that.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
nobody caught that because they all think that I'm just
Nico caught it.
Nico caught it. It's like, yeah, what the fuck are you talking about? Shut the fuck up. That's what he told me. Shut the fuck up. And I told him, what the fuck is your problem? Just don't wear a fucking camera on the stage. Get somebody, pay him $500, $200, whatever the fuck you want to pay him, to carry that camera for you and let's focus on the game. I told him, just imagine Messi fucking going out in the quarterfinals of the World Cup with the fucking selfie stick on the stadium. Like, I just imagine that. Straight to the fucking bench.
Yeah.
Right? The thing is that, and people don't see that. I called him out in City. He's even on desk, I believe, where I said that he was the worst player on the server in that semifinals against Complexity. Right? He was playing like shit. But I do respect Nico as one of the GOATs. He is one of the GOATs because I played against him. I played with him. I know him when he was just a fucking kid. I know how he developed. I know his mindset. I know everything that he can do, at least in CSGO. Now we have to wait and see a little bit more, right? For him to actually see if he can be on the same level that he... But he was one of the GOATs. That's why I praise him. Maniac does the same thing with Zaivu. And, he even made those spreadsheets and fucking database analysis and fucking whatever it was. And nobody fucking made a thread about him.
Yeah, it's true. It is true, actually. That was because as well that narrative devolved into Thorin is wrong. That was what that one did. So everyone was like, yeah,
exactly.
No one's gonna call Maniac a Ziwu Dick Rider or whatever if it looks bad for Duncan.
Do I prefer Nico over other players? Yes, because like I said, I was in the competitive environment for a long time. I know exactly how it is difficult to play against him. I know how it is easy to play with him or hard playing with him in some cases as well, because he has a strong personality. He is opinionated as well. Right now, people, and there's this story about him, but people thinking that he has so much power in fucking organizations. It is absolutely not true. And when I say that, people are going to say, oh yeah, he's defending Nico once again. It's like, I'm telling you, it's not happening. But, I know what I'm saying, and I know I'm defending it because I know what he can do. Simply because I played with the guy. I know him. I played against him. It's just common sense. I speak from experience. I don't speak out of my ass. That's the difference.
Does your job in Bleed mean you're gonna be off the desks now? I mean, are you gonna be doing less? because
Yes.
that was the one thing everyone was like posting in the Reddit thread. Was super happy. It means no more Kassad on the
Yeah,
desk. So
yeah, I can imagine, right? The thing is, like, definitely, I have to avoid it as much as I can because it wouldn't be very presentable for me to go and do two jobs at the same time, the double dip in a sense, and I don't think it would be fair towards the fellow talent, to just, try to get my ass into two seats and take the money from them because there are a lot of people that are actually talent from the beginning, and and if I take their spot and still get paid to be the coach, and also it's not fair towards the organization right now, especially in this environment right now. That everything is back on land. We are building something good, and we are trying to build something good here, and it requires a lot of work and a lot of my time, and it wouldn't be fair for me to just go off on a 2 weeks of Pro League or something, right? Or 2 weeks of Katowice and just be at the desk, right? And while they are just doing all the work, it just doesn't make sense. And I wouldn't feel the best doing that. Back in 2021, we can do it because it was the COVID and it was online and whatever it was. So it was just much easier. But right now, especially like in the fact that we have to build the whole squad, it's just completely different. And I want to do it for multiple reasons.
yeah, so I mean, look, we're coming up to the end. It's nearly time, so I'll get back onto the bleed thing and just sort of talk around. Obviously, it might be tough to answer because you don't even know who your players are going to be yet. But in terms of making it to the major, coming through the RMR qualifiers, I mean, I'm guessing that sort of has to be the goal, right? Like, I'm sure you've been told you're going to have to get there in March. That's like what people want from the
No,
org, right? No?
no, they haven't said that I have to do anything, right? It will be a good thing to do. I think it's very important for me to get a good foundation of the team, right? Like I said at the beginning, I don't want people to look at the Bleed organization as a bag of money or something, because I am not, whoever is the players are listening, I am not overpaying. I am not going to be to try to attract players with money. I will give everybody who needs to be signed a fair, more than a fair deal that everyone can be very satisfied with, but I'm never going to just try to entice you with some sort of crazy cash or anything like that just so you can come in and play, right? So the idea first is to build a core of the players that they're going to carry the team and try to build the culture of the organization, because they're just new in the scene, right? They're not like they're 2 years old, and they have the Valorant team for a year and a half, I believe. So they have they were made their way into Valorant, but in CS you need to make your way, right? You need to build a culture so you can attract players. It's like a year from now, once we have the system going up and running and the processes and everything, and people see that we are a healthy organization, that we are somebody who is willing to make players comfortable and put their needs and interests at the same level as their own at the very least, right? And find a balance to make everything work, then players will come join you anyway. You don't need to entice them with crazy salaries. This is what I'm trying to accomplish. If that means in the first season I don't get to play the RMR, I don't get to play the major, that's so be it, right? And if I get fired for that, that's fine. That's on them then, right? It's not on me, because I want to, by any means, build this thing that to make sense. Like I told you, the recipe is what Ants did at the beginning when they rebuilt it after the finished squad, when they got Snappy, when they got I think who was their Diha and a couple of more players, and they just keep upgrading. They lost Spinks, they got Nerds, and they got Sun Pius instead of Hades, and it was like a really, really like a long-term thing that they built there, and they got rewards for it after a year and a half. They won Dallas, they played a couple of finals, they played the semis of the major, I believe, at one point, and it's a result of making good moves and building something healthy. Now they're in a bit of a tough spot because Snappy left, and they got Glaive and Cuban, and their coach left, and it's like much different. But that's the recipe that was really successful for them. And even with the disadvantage they had, they didn't have enough resources. Obviously, the money was limited in a way, and the advantage they had was the Louvre agreement they had with ESL, right? So the Pro League was kind of always safe, and a couple of more events. So that's always good. Now after 2024, we're all going to be on the same playing field, so it's going to be a lot different.
Yeah. And I mean, for you in your mind, I know you set yourself high standards. So, I mean, you're obviously going to be mega disappointed if you're not able to get to the major, right?
Yes, at the time, if that happens, probably. But I have to keep my eye on the bigger prize, right? Like I told you, like if we make the next five, nobody's gonna fucking care if we didn't make this one. Absolutely no one, and everybody's gonna wanna join us, and we're gonna be happy with what we built, right? The idea for me, it's not about the expectation is not making the major. My expectation is making a team that's gonna be a contender by the time we have the finished product, right? The team that's gonna be deep in the playoffs, the team that's gonna be a favorite on when they put you like on the fucking odds spreadsheet, that you're gonna be up there, right? That you're gonna be considered as a respected, force to be, when you play against you. It's that kind of mindset that I want to do and create. And obviously, I'm gonna need good players. I'm gonna need a support from the organization as well. But this is the idea, right? Because I'm not gonna be settling with mediocrity at the finished product, right? We're gonna feel bumps at the beginning. I'm sure we're gonna fuck up couple of times. It's gonna be mediocre probably at the beginning, like it always is, and really very difficult. But like I said, the finished product needs to be, top shelf, needs to be very, very highly positioned in the whole like competitive environment when it comes to the teams. That's what I want, right? To be a contender. Right? I'm not saying we're gonna be the best team and saying some fucking stupid fairy tales, but we are gonna try to, try to be the best.
You're
That we
not
can
building
be.
a Colossus.
Yeah, shout out to Henry one time. Now the thing is like, we're just gonna do whatever we can do to put ourselves in that position, right? And how it will turn up, we'll see. I don't know. I mean, but I am working my ass off every single day, and I am enjoying it. That's the biggest difference that I had from before is I don't feel stressed, at least not yet. Maybe because I just started, but and I lost pretty much all of my hair, so maybe it's that.
Well, look, other than obviously your role in Bleed, I know you do a lot of other things. So just to wrap it up, is there going to be any content coming while you're going to be sort of taking on this new role? Are you going to keep the YouTube stuff up?
Oh, it's very difficult to say that simply because I would love to do more demo reviews, more like shows, more like things that are involved with the game itself. But I don't think it's gonna be frequent at all, because right now the priority has to be is dealing with the team and the squad and the organization, that because this org, they put their trust in me, right? They did, so I have to respect that, and I have to devote every single moment that I can to them, because they put me, in a position where, where I wanted to be. That they gave me what I asked for, at least for now, and we'll see how it goes. Also, I'm starting a family and, getting married this year, and it's like a lot of things happening in my life that I want to like kind of shape in a perfect way, so I can lead one healthy, stress-free, a life that's going to be very balanced in terms of professional and personal aspect of it.
All right. Well, brother, it's been good to catch up and get you back on the show. I'll be watching which players you pick up over the coming weeks with great interest, and best of luck with that. As I said, I think all bets are off on CS2. CS2. I don't think anything that we thought we knew is necessarily going to carry over, and it's going to be an exciting time. It really is kind of a hard reset for the scene. So there's definitely a possibility for like one of these outlier teams that are being built from scratch to upset the apple cart, so to speak. So as always, thanks for your time, and I wish you well. And to everybody else, obviously, you probably know who Kassad is, but go give him a follow on Twitter. It'll be down there under his name, probably, if my editor's done their job. And we'll be back with another episode of The Richard Lewis Show, probably before Christmas, I reckon. But, we'll wait and see. So, as always, thanks for watching, wherever you are. Take care, and we'll see you next time. All right, clear. Let me just hit stop.